Hey there, Ddraig back with a look at some individual units. For a little change of pace, this video will concentrate on ChaosRobie's unit mods. Links will be in the description and highlighted comment to his workshop. He is created with the help of some other modders, who I shall highlight when it comes to talking about each one. A range of unique models which you can play in your campaigns. There is no overall mod to put them all in, just download the one you want in particular and then activate it. Some of them have alternative downloads for popular overhaul mods, so check that out as well if you're interested, and all this information can be found in the description of each mod. Everything's on ultra settings, so let's get on. I do have a faction, and with that in mind, let's head to the Empire first. So first up, we have a series of war altars, all under one mod. Pretty much whose chariots, and all three have a similar stat line, but with different abilities, all of which can be recruited from a temple building chain. First let's have a look at the altar of More, the cheapest of the three at 1200 points, total for the slowest at only 30 speed. With anti-infantry bonus of 15 and 80 AP damage, so they can do a bit of work on the charge, if very slowly. All of the altars are unbreakable, have fear and terror as well. They also share one ability, the immunity to psychology buff, spread around in 40 meters radius. Always a powerful ability, and as you will see, this is a great chariot against the undead. The Aura of More is a debuff only affecting the undead around it, with a nice decrease in leadership. Very handy to get them breaking and start taking the damage from the debuff. It also has 3 uses of Doom and Darkness, dropping leadership again to really break the undead, but can also be used on whatever you're facing, making it viable against weaker leadership factions such as Beastmen, Greenskins or Skaven. On to the next altar, which is the Altar of Ulrich. Again, very similar in aspects of the previous unit, except it's got a much more respectable speed at 50. So can actually outrun infantry now. Speaking of which, keeping this unit away from any anti-arch threat is always a good idea. And ideally, you want to protect it with some troops so it cannot be surrounded. Abilities wise, this one has more about the buffing, with an aura adding a great melee attack buff. Also, there's a Blessing of the Blood, which has 3 uses to add more damage to base and AP to a unit in respectable 200 meter range. Sadly, it does make them fanatical, so they go into Rampage, and at 45 seconds, you need to make sure you choose the right type of unit. The last of the altars, and this one is the curious, as it's fastest of the 3, so it can actually outpace some cavalry if it gets up to speed. It also provides a speed increase buff in an aura. Not particularly useful, but you could use this as a role and have it with some cavalry, and it would make an interesting spectacular at the very least, and it would hit pretty hard as well. Also, Eagle's Vision increases the unit's ability to spot units around itself. Not a massive buff, but it's an interesting and unique one. Personally, I prefer the War Altar of Ulrich, which is great in all armies, and the other two are nice against undead, or the ones which are sneaky, such as the Greenskins or even the Wood Elves, especially with their ability to sneak inside the forest. Next we have the Celestial hurricanum, used by a head wizard to enchant spells, and then uses the device to enhance its abilities, equally helped by its acolytes. A solid addition to your army, and recruited like you would the Unimach of Hish. You need the Celestial hurricanum mod and the effects mod to get the cool spell effects. It can fire on the move and has decent damage, as you can see from this highlighted video. More of the match for these zombies, and their magical strikes with 150 AP damage and a bit of splash is highly useful. Let's dive into the stats. A chariot, but a ranged one this time, with decent ammo, but is poor in combat. While it can charge in a bit, it's best using that slight speed to keep away and shoot incoming troops. A small unit of halberdiers or spearmen to protect it is handy. Burst Rise, it can augment its speed to get itself into trouble, or even out of. It can boost the magic recharge rate as well, which is a vital buff, and well worth it just for that. Just make sure you run with a mage, and having this might even make 2 mages possible to run in armies. Also has a small bonus to melee attack, which is not huge, but a small constant buff I would never knock. Useful in most armies and can definitely give some units a bit more damage to think about. And at 1,700 price, it's reasonable as it provides numerous abilities to complement your army. You also have the Empire units now, and well, it's a landship. Because if you're in Merenberg, you want a ship, obviously not a steam tank. Complete with an anchor for, I suppose, maybe handbrake turns. Obviously, when you're as wealthy as people in Merenberg, and one of the merchant lords decide they want something a bit more special, they obviously want one of these things. To recruit it, you need a level 3 port and a level 2 smith. Or you can build a special Merenberg building, or even one in Noon. Another separate mod again, and this time Wobby has a code creator, which I'll put on the screen now, as I've butchered way too many of these Steam names in the past. So the stat line of the landship is decent, with good armour and reasonable speed. And just about the same as a war wagon. 100 AP and 25 bonus to infantry means does your damage when it gets there. A forward facing cannon, which is only short range but also has infantry on it to shoot out. A powerful unit and an amazing over 1,700 points. It is however very weak in defence and has a weakness to fire for obvious reasons. Abilities, it only has a couple. One is a speed boost to get that itself out of trouble, and yet again, indeed into bigger trouble. And if it does blow up, a unit of Merenbergs will hop out and try to avenge whoever took out their very special pimped out ride. While the cannon is not greatest, as it only has a small arc of fire, it is a decent unit and can provide a nice thorn on enemy's side as it goes around causing havoc. Onto some dwarf units now, and there's mount options for the hordes and heroes of the dwarves, and also it's a good idea to download the animation modding framework as well for this mod. On a side note, I'm really excited to see what this animation framework can do in the future, hopefully expanding the modding community's tools even more. So with this mod you get oath stones and shield bearers as two options as you rank up your dwarves. At level 14 you get shield bearers, but the horde uses his shield, as well he's standing on it. And as you can see, the stats are not hugely different, but more health and more defence always a benefit. And of course, some extra mass. While at level 20, you can have the same health buff as well, and your bronze shield back, and you get the unbreakable trait. And it just gives you a little cool option to increase your durability of any horde or hero. And some legendary hordes like Beragor. Another unit for dwarves is a juggernaut. Again, ChaosRobie's had some extra help for this one. And it kinda lives up to its name, a huge armoured war machine with a cannon in front. Can be used for the Master Engineer, mount at level 20, or recruited down the engineering tree. Like the landship, damage is not spectacular off the cannon, but it's not too bad. The actual machine itself is 140 AP and bonus to infantry of 24. However, it's heavily armoured at 175, meaning it's a very, very tough unit to bring down, and makes up for its weak defence. A useful unit, but it's expensive at 2,200 points. However, if you want a tough, slow-moving unit, which, let's face it, is pretty much a dwarf in a nutshell, this does the job very well. Now onto the Beastmen roster, and definitely a place where you need some extra new toys. And here's the first one, a Praeton, a weird hybrid unit. A fast flying unit which has some really decent stats and has a vanguard as well, so great for taking out that pesky artillery quickly. With 295 AP and a good 25 anti-charge bonus, this unit can do a lot of work as it's reasonable in defence and 80 armour is not terrible. Also, the damage is boosted by Frenzy, so this is well worth the 1,500 cost. Next is the meme-friendly Gorgon. A unit which you got to think will raise its ugly head at some point. So what do we get? A very large monster killer with huge damage, 250 AP and 30 anti-charge, so we can definitely dish out with damage. However, on defence, it's not as great, with low stats and the armour is only 50. So personally, I actually prefer the Praeton out of the two, but it's a cool model and definitely worth putting into your army. At 1,600 points, it's not a bad price either. onto the Dark Elves now, and they have some worms. Well, big worms, let's be honest. These were in the game, but now can be recruited by ChaosRobie, and all can be encased in one mod, including the High Elves ones, which I'll get to in a minute. First up though, we'll have these Dark Elf options. And our first option is the Paga Worm. For cheaper of the two options, that's 2,200 points. Good frontline attacker with regen and decent damage to boot, with 150 AP. While the combat stats are not great, it's tough with 100 armour, so it can take some punishment. Also has Wall Breaker and the debuffing Amphibian Code around it. And it's certainly a great monster to add to the crazy monsters the Dark Elves already have. Next is the powerful Sphy Worm at 2,400 points. Not as tough, but better in combat, as it's great for taking out large monsters in alpha strikes. Decent speed as well, so we can catch up to them. And has a huge charge bonus along with 450 AP and 35 anti-arge, means a formidable 1v1 opponent. Also, it has the ability to drop the melee defense around it in a nice debuff, which definitely helps its alpha strike use, and makes it a formidable unit to say the least. So onto the High Elves options now, and the Arspatch of Worms. First off, it's the cheapest of them all at 2,000 points. This unit is very good at its price, and a more anti-infantry monster, and can be chucked in to cause a lot of damage on the charge. 250 AP and 20 bonus to infantry, and it has poison, means a great role as the Ironbreaker due to its huge mass and decent armour at 80. They can also recruit the Scythe Worm, which I covered when I went over the Dark Elves just now, but they can also reach the Mighty Armour, a Regiment of Renown version, and it comes at a mighty 3,800 points. With a huge stat line, huge armour, and silly amount of damage, with 400 AP of that AP. And 40 anti-arge, you do not mess with this unit. As a huge health pool suggests, it needs it because it has no defense whatsoever. It's so big, you can't really miss it, so just be careful, as it will be the biggest target ever for your enemy. It can go down especially when it's focused fire. So make sure it's well supported, and give the enemy something to think about, so it can at least make sure this unit can do massive damage before it gets whittled down. From now on, we've only got one unit per faction, so these will be no particular order. And this adorable creature is the kymorat. Query, Cram and Molder are very proud of this hybrid, and a great job on the model as it works so well. So onto the stats. This anti-infantry monster has a really high melee attack and good damage with 310 AP and 20 bonus to infantry, so you can send this in to chew through the old tier units, or maybe the odd yeet. But obviously be careful of those anti-arge specialists. With Warp Fire cast for its breath, this unit is a quality addition to the Skaven, and the model works so well at 1,600 points, sits nicely as a bit more cheaper option to the Helpet Abomination. On to the Beastmen now, and they don't really need more monsters, but here's one, and this particular BC is a flying monster, possessing poison, a very good stat line at 2,000 cost. He is a great all-rounder, and one of the best units I think I cover in this video. Powerful in combat with 280 AP damage and a 20 bonus infantry. He may be not the hardest hitting, but has really good combat stats to back that up. Also possesses great abilities. First up, Field of Thorns, which you have two uses of. The ever useful net, with 3 uses, and the archery, 2 uses of chain lightning. All of these cost no magic and just adds a bit more utility to your army, with just only 1 unit. On to the Warriors of Chaos now, and a glimpse into the future of Warhammer. As this unit, along with the Chaos Demons, will no doubt make an appearance in Total War Warhammer 3. This time, Pariant took the lead with ChaosRobie's help, but the mod is still in Robbie's workshop. So what does the daemonettes provide? Well, they are elite infantry with very strong combat stats, which are magical. A lot of speed at 44 mark, and they hit damn hard with 35 AP and 8 for anti-infantry, along with a reasonably good charge bonus as well. Provoking fear, this is a great high damage dealing unit. However, as you may no doubt noticed, there is a low mortal count, and the armour is weak. Also, they are counted as undead. As demons are linked to chaos magic, they need some type of mechanic to represent this. And the undead one is as close to any, as they are not going to run away. A useful unit to say the least, with strong stats and IR punch to any army. Just make sure you don't get them overwhelmed in combat and pick the right unit, as they'll be wasted on chaff. The aspect by knowing Geese is this amazing unit by ChaosRobie. And always remember, after watching this video, go and check out his workshop, because I've only highlighted a few of his mods. He has quite an extensive collection, and I'm sure you'll find something you like. I'm just highlighting some of my favourites. So this unit for the Tomb Kings is a magical chariot which can shoot from archers mounted on it and is automatic. It can charge into attack, even though it definitely needs support as its shield defense and armour so this is not particularly advisable. However, it is an option. The range attack is decent though, and has tons of ammo, so it can sit in the second rank behind your skeletons, shoot over their heads. When it does get into combat, it can do a bit of damage on the charge and has 70 AP and 15 bonus to infantry, so it's a pretty decent in this respect. However, the abilities it brings definitely makes this unit worth its 1,400 points, and I would say that's quite cheap for that price. It has a constant damage around itself in a 40 meter range, and it also provides damage resistance to all troops around itself as well. So it's perfect in its role of just behind the front line, providing its debuffs and its buffs. And that's the arse of the units I'm going to cover. So check out ChaosRobie's workshop, and it's probably worth keeping an eye on his work, because I'm sure he's going to bring more units to the game as we go on to the Warhammer 3. So until my next video, thanks for watching.